Welcome back to the Tactical Pause podcast. I'm Kevin Price.
I'm Kevin Reed.
And I'm Armando Macias.
And if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. That's the best way to help us with the YouTube algorithm. And today, I want to talk about a topic that's been on my mind a lot lately, criticism of America versus loyalty to America. And I have a quote that I'd like to share with you all from Mark Twain, where it says, "Patriotism is supporting your country all the time and your government when it deserves it." And this makes me think of the right versus the left a lot because the right seems to think that the left is not patriotic enough or the left does not love America because of the things that we say, because of how we criticize the government a lot of times and what's going on right now. But that's really not the case. But I'm curious what y'all guys think of that.
Yeah, so actually this is an amazing topic. So it is a topic close to my heart. Um, I've always been weirdly patriotic and how much I love our Constitution and love this country in that way. I love that Mark Twain quote. Tom Jefferson had another good quote that said dissension is the greatest form of patriotism when you dissent against the government. So there's an amazing writer, Christian Piccinelli. He started a group called Life After Hate. Now he was a right wing skinhead in Chicago. He was the leader of the skinheads back in the '90s. Now what was interesting about Christian was he was the leader of the skinheads for 8 years, and he said he didn't believe in the movement, but he loved the power and the things that came with being the leader and so on. When he saw what happened in Charlottesville, and he understood all the code words and all the language that the right wing uses, and how the skinheads of today are not like of the past, right? They grew their hair out, they wear suits, they blend in, they're joining the military, police force, things like that, and he's in the know. He said what he saw in Charlottesville wasn't the right wing versus the left wing in his mind. It was Americans versus the new Confederacy. And I totally see that. Like today, I understand we have right wing and left wing, liberal, conservative, but I'm starting to see more of a perspective of we have the Americans versus a new neo fascist group. Like it's so far off the spectrum, they're not even political anymore. And that's what I'm seeing with MAGA and the right wing. There's been Republican scholars who have said this themselves, where they said the Republican Party and MAGA is not a parliamentary political group anymore. It is a radical insurgency. They're accelerating climate change. They're extremely authoritarian, very reactionary, as we all seen, extremely corrupt. It's just not even political anymore. It's basically American versus whatever that is at this point. And I think more and more of us have to have that conversation more of what it really means to preserve America and what it means being an American and the forces against that, rather than just kind of normalizing the same right wing versus left that we have. That's relevant, but I see it a little deeper this time around. At least that's what my thought is.
I agree. I think that MAGA is the resurgence of the Confederacy. I see that a lot. I see that this is what happens when we failed Reconstruction, when we failed to punish the Confederate systems after the Civil War, and once Lincoln was assassinated, Johnson, who became president, was uninterested in continuing to unravel the Confederacy, and he just let it. He's like, well, whatever, I'm done with that. We're done. And since then, you've seen this consistent, steady march on the right to this radical theological ideology that is based on Confederate. God has blessed this Confederacy, and we will have our way. It's one of those things where you kind of get concerned that there are not enough people who are aware of it. We've stopped teaching history in schools. Kids don't get civics. Kids don't understand the conditions for the Civil War. Because I think if they did, there'd be a lot more people recognizing MAGA as just Confederacy Part Two.
Yep, 100%.
And all three of us joined after 9/11, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
The thing is, when people tell me that I'm not patriotic or I don't love this country because of whatever position I have or whatever thing I want to criticize, I feel like you can go fuck yourself because
Yeah.
I I spent a year of my life in Iraq and many other years bouncing around the globe for the good of the nation. So, fuck you. If you don't think that I care about my country, you should be able to criticize your country. It does
Yep.
not mean we love our country. We don't criticize our country because we don't love our country. We criticize our country because we do care about what happens in our country. You know, when I look at what's happening in Iran and Israel, it hurts my heart to see our country do those things. You know, there are certain aspects of it. Like I was not for the Ayatollah necessarily, but at the same time, I'm also not for the way we've handled shit over there. We talked about John Kiriakou on one of our episodes, who is, I don't know if you know Armando, he is the CIA agent who spoke out against torture during the
Oh
Bush
yeah.
administration.
He's got the glasses and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
put on trial for treason. Nonetheless, he had somebody on his podcast. He was a professor in Iran, and he was talking about how, the government wasn't as bad as people thought it was. But then he got to a point where he was talking about death to Americans and the fall of imperialist America and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, you kind of lost me there because I live in America. My family lives in America. So when it comes to that, I do love America.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. I would give my life for my country and everybody in it. But at the same time, we need to keep ourselves from slipping into becoming the bad guys. When we're supporting Israel and genocide against Palestinians, I mean, that's not being the good guy. That's the opposite. So I have a problem with that. And I think our allies, for the most part, can see that we have an administration that's completely fucked. So I don't think that they blame America altogether. Now, I do think if it goes on past this administration, then there's going to be a fucking problem. But I think they're kind of waiting to see what happens next. And at least I hope they are, because, I'd hate to see anything bad happen to our country.
I don't know. Mark Carney of Canada has already started to build an economic coalition away from us. I think that a lot of people don't understand what the American empire is and how it's affected things globally and how that empire is taking things from communities, right? Like the empire has taken money from Medicare and Medicaid to funnel to war in Iran and help Israel build more bombs. Like in some ways the language is hard because Americans don't understand the difference between the United States of America, where you were born, and the American empire, which stretches across most of the northern hemisphere. So I think it's hard because people say I want the American empire to die, and you're like, yeah, that's not really what we want to say. But at the same time, the death of that empire is going on now. I don't think that's arguable. And I think that more people will benefit from us not being everywhere on the planet when we can concentrate the wealth and the efforts here at home to rebuild communities that we've forsaken for the globe trotting that we've been doing.
Yeah. And I think there has to be a way where it's kind of like what you said, Price, about I love my country as well. I mean, I was willing to die for this country, and it's unquestionable how our patriotism is. And I think when it comes to the economic policies that we always talk about, that's stuff that will help people we disagree with. MAGA, left, center, we're Americans. We have to take care of each other. We don't have one of the things that I noticed, was like coming back home from the service was we as Americans, it's totally cool to question our government and to criticize it what we're doing because that is a sign of that we love it. We want it to do better. I always said make America great was a sign that they didn't like America as much, but they want to make it great again or whatever. It's like we don't have that one tribe as much as we did with our units being in the military as veterans. We have a tribe of veterans. There's not really that American tribe. And I have family from Brazil. My daughter's Brazilian. Her mom is from Sao Paulo, Brazil. And being in Brazil and seeing the way that they are as a people, there's more of that Brazilian tribe. Or in Mexico, there was a Mexican tribe. My dad's from Mexico City, or so on and so forth. But in America, I know that we're so diverse, but it's still that tribe of, hey, we're Americans, dude. Like, we have to remember we have to take care of each other first. And whether it's universal health care, higher wages, it's to help all of us. I'm not here to just help liberals. I'm here to help you too. I care about the MAGA voter as a person and their families as Americans. I can't stand fighting with them and talking with them, but I care about that. I want to see them live and have food.
There was a point in our history
Hmm.
where, if we had a president, whether it be a Democrat or Republican, people generally respected the office of the president.
Right.
Yeah, my
Right.
family was Republican, but they could be under Clinton and say, we respect Clinton. If they met him, they would be excited to meet him and
Yeah.
that kind of thing because he's the president of the United States. I mean, I met George W. Bush, and I don't agree with George W. Bush on almost anything, but I respected the fact that he was our
Yeah.
president
He's
at
the
the same
president. You
time.
respect the office. Yeah.
But we've gotten away from that, so far away
Yeah.
from that. But there's a lot of other misconceptions too. A lot of Republicans say they're for small government and the left is for big government, but that's not necessarily true. They're only for small government in the areas that they want it to be small. And in my opinion, the left is for strong government, not big government, because we're not trying to give everybody everything. There's certain baseline things that we want to support, like single payer healthcare. That makes a stronger government, in my opinion, when it takes
Yeah.
care of its people. But it's not like we're just, trying to control everybody at the same time. There's two different things, and I think they kind of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. 100%. It's small government when it comes to helping the people. It's like, yeah, we believe in small government when it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, taking care of our roads and bridges. But when it comes to the military, man, they want a $1.5 trillion budget. That's pretty big government to me. But the other side is like, well, the people pay taxes, they want a return of investment. Our tax dollars go to a foreign country that has free healthcare, that has free education, that has paid family leave, and our taxes are going to that country that supplies that for their people. I mean, even Donald Trump, when he had the leader of Australia, I forgot his name, back in his first term, he said, "Hey, you guys have better healthcare than we do in America." I was like, "Well, yeah, man, we want universal healthcare too. We want a return of our investment. That's not big government. That's a strong government. That's a strong country. We want our investment." So yeah, I totally agree.
I think making sure that the investment comes back to the people. Like wars have to have an end to them, right? Like you say, hey, we're going to go to war in Iraq. We don't want them to have weapons of mass destruction. It should take this amount of time. These are the conditions for victory that we're looking for. And instead, we hoard it out to these Booz Allen Hamilton, KBR, Northrop Grumman. And so there's a vested financial interest in keeping these wars going consistently. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of creating more veterans and then having to argue with politicians on why those veterans' bodies are broken and they deserve to have care. And hearing people say like, "Oh, you've got all this money coming in." First of all, VA compensation is not a lot of money. I'm 80% service connected, and I think the money that I get pays the bills here, but that's it. It's not like, and I don't live extravagant. I live in a 100-plus-year-old house. It's not like I'm rolling in dough like I'm Scrooge McDuck and just diving into gold coins all day. In fact, I still have to work because I still have to get food for the house. I've still got to, put gas in the car. Our dogs still need to go to the vet. Blah 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 blah. It's irritating because I feel that there's not a consistency in the messaging, and then when you try to be honest about it and you try to say this is the consequences of these actions, and they ignore you, they come back and say, well, now these bad things have happened, but we don't have the money to take care of these veterans. Like, then you didn't have the fucking money to go to war, did you? That's the answer. If you don't have the money to take care of the guys and gals when they come home, then don't sit here and bitch at me that we're cutting and running or doing whatever stupid bullshit phrase you have. No, you can't take care of them when they come home. You can't afford to go to war. Period.
And it irritates me when people say
Yep.
that the right is pro-military because I'm like, the fuck if they are. The right
Yeah.
is pro-war. They're not pro-military. They're pro-fucking military until you get home, and then they don't give a fuck. The left tends to be more pro-veteran and less pro-war. Not that the left hasn't got us into wars too, because they fucking have. But another thing about small government is when it comes to law and order, having ICE on the streets, that's not fucking small government. How the
Yeah.
fuck is that small government? Or, squelching states' rights or the way they handle policing, that is not fucking small government. I don't know in what world they think that fuck that's a small government, but it's not. I don't know. It just irritates me, man.
It's literally the most big government that I can think of when it comes to the right wing and Republicans. I mean, they want to get involved in your private life. They want to get involved in your marriage. They want to get involved with who you're sleeping with or not. You have guys that are trying to outlaw oral sex, and they have a sin tax for OnlyFans women. A guy running for a sin tax saying he wants to tax only the OnlyFans women because he just doesn't like that they sleep around, or that's the sin to him. compared to any other sin we can think of. Or you have Donald Trump trying to get involved with comedians and what they can joke about or not. Dave Smith, that's all over the place, actually supported the military in our streets, and he's supposed to be this anti-government right winger, and he's like, "No, I think it's cool that the military's on the streets to keep us safe." I'm like, "You guys are so full of shit, man." It's the most big government thing that I can think of that blows the left out of the water when it comes to being big government.
Well, it's just very clear to me that the Republican Party would rather idealize their concept of what America should be rather than actually live up to what the Constitution says. There's no point of them that if you read in the Constitution, like, that's great, I don't care. Because they have this ideological version of the America they want. That's the only one they're going to live in. And if you want differently, fuck you.
They push past that, though. I mean, if you think about ICE, and then they detain somebody that's not even a fucking undocumented immigrant. They're an American citizen. They send them to, I don't know, Alligator Alcatraz, or they send them to fucking, what's the country they sent people to? El Salvador.
El
There you
Salvador,
go.
yeah.
And half of these people weren't even criminals, and I know some people make the case that if you're an undocumented immigrant, you're a criminal, which if you want to get technical, I suppose you're right. You come over here, you're undocumented, technically you are. But I lean on the side of compassion when it comes to things like that. They make it seem like they're rapists and murderers and thieving people. I just feel like there should be a clearer path to citizenship, a clearer path to residency, instead of just splitting up families and treating people like they're not human. They act like they're holier than thou and so Christian and all these fucking things. But then when it comes to dealing with the human element, they're shitting all over people. Or when, like we were talking about marriage and I'm assuming LGBTQ rights. I mean, they're more worried about what's going on in somebody's bedroom. There was actually a comedian, I can't think of what comedian it was. He was talking about how a Republican guy's like, man, I just can't stop about thinking about what they're doing in the bedroom. He's like, that's the second gayest thing you could do to being gay, you know. And
Oh
then
yeah.
and then Republicans are so fucking repressed that they end up going to their fucking RNC and crashing Grinder every fucking time, and then they say it's a choice and it's not something you're born with and all this other bullshit. So I just they're so full of shit.
Yeah, man. And with just what you were talking about with when it comes to the immigrant part, the part that made me feel like these people really don't give a shit about illegal or illegal. Obviously, with the people that they, round up or their citizens, veterans, whatever the status is, they never seem to go after the people that hire them, right? There's workers that hire undocumented immigrants and they hire them because of the lower wages or what have you. But I never see them say, "Look, man, you're a business owner. I'm coming after you for hiring these undocumented people because that is like these are criminals and you're hiring criminals and I'm going to come after you." And you don't see them go and handcuff some business owner, in front of his Mercedes and taking him to jail. And it's like I don't. That part doesn't get talked about enough, I think. And I think it's because they know like that's not something they really would want to do. But if they really cared, I think that would be something they would be going after.
My perspective on this is you've gone thousands of miles through some of the roughest terrain that the world has to offer just for a chance to work a shitty job that we can't fill anyway. I would just say, welcome home. You want to be here, you're going to bust your ass that much to be here. You're already working harder than half the people already in the workforce. I don't understand why that's such a big deal. I also think just give them visas. Give them migrant working visas and allow them to enter and come in legally, allow them to negotiate wages, allow them to have access to certain programs they pay taxes into. And ICE, or not ICE, but I would bring back the Immigration and Naturalization Service, and then they can monitor those situations. And if people need to stay longer, employers can apply for longer visas. This isn't hard concepts. It's just there's so many moneyed interests involved in it. It's impossible to actually get cogent policy passed because so many people have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo.
The government doesn't actually want to get rid of all undocumented immigrants. They say that they do in the Trump administration, but they know they don't. Because
No.
if you got rid of every single undocumented immigrant in the United States, we would have a recession immediately. And not
Oh,
even like a
dude.
small recession. It would be totally fucked. So my solution is just find a way, like you're saying, to provide visas to these people, to provide a pathway to citizenship or even at least residency. I'm not saying just let any swinging dick in the country. You know, security is still important. I'm not against that, but these people are not hurting anybody. They're not hurting anybody. The ones that are, get them the fuck out, sure. But aside from that,
Yeah,
Well,
Reagan, a Republican, granted him amnesty before. It's you had a Republican president that granted amnesty to immigrants, and he did it before. The country didn't fall apart, and there wasn't 20 million rapists. But it's like you said with the money thing. I saw a study that was showing how much it would cost, and I believe adjusted for inflation, right now to deport one person is running upwards about 17 or 20 grand. We could always fact check and look it up, but when he was deporting people, they estimated it around like 12 or 13 grand, and then with inflation it went up. So doing the math, if he wanted to deport 11 million people at about 17 grand a piece, I mean, you're talking billions upon billions of dollars it would cost that we would pay for to get them out of here. And then they go to a private prison, which is really what I think it's about. They go to GeoCore, they get a profit for people being in our prisons. That's a private corporation that donates to our government all the time. We spend about, I don't know, maybe $700 a day in taxpayer money to get them to that jail. While they're in that jail, GeoCorp makes a profit. And I was like, this is just a big money grab, man. It's all for profit for these private prisons. And that's another thing that needs to be brought up is we got to do something about these private prisons, man. That shit is crazy.
yeah, handing over incarceration to private companies, that's what RoboCop was about. It's stupid. Like all this stuff is like corny ass shit that they made movies about in the 80s. I don't understand like why they didn't like watch that. Like someone watched that and went, "Oh, that's a really good idea." Instead of being like, "Oh, well, that's a really bad idea." So it's weird to see people like watch films like The Terminator and be like, "I want to work for Skynet."
yeah, that's what it seems like when you talk about like AI and things like that coming out of the woodwork. It's all these billionaires too. They want to push the technology as far as it can go because it's cool and because I think that might be the only reason. They say it's going to serve humankind, but to what degree? I mean, where we can't make money on our own anymore? I mean, we're not going to have any money to buy any of this shit you're making.
It's the same thing that Marx argues, right? Marx argues in Das Kapital that eventually the corporatists who own the corporations will push technology to such a degree that they're going to essentially break the economy. And in fact, they can generate wealth without employees, but there's not enough money for the people who aren't working anymore to afford the products. And so I think that you can see how that's going to go. We've previously talked about how when you go to like McDonald's or Taco Bell, there's a kiosk now. There's not someone to take your order. That's going to continue to go along. There's a plan for what's called a dark factory in Monette, Missouri. So the factory will have maybe 10, 15 people a shift, but that's just to make sure the machines are reading the barcodes correctly. There's not going to be internal lights or climate control beyond what it's needed to keep the machines operational. Really, we're cutting out entry level jobs out of the workforce. I think that there are rational conversations to be had about what do you do with people who cannot be employed.
Absolutely. And it's not like I'm anti-technology or anything like that. And it's not like I feel that even AI doesn't have a place necessarily, but they need to pump the brakes and think more strategically about how we move forward. Like hit pause, let's assess where we're at, see where we need to place guardrails, and then proceed. But you can't just do whatever you want willy-nilly. I mean, that's fucking ridiculous. The things I've heard Elon Musk say, they've cloned several different animals, not Elon necessarily, but there's been companies that have done that. He bragged about being able to bring back dinosaurs if he wanted to because they have the technology. I was like, have you seen Jurassic Park? That's what the AI thing makes me think of. I mean, you have all these examples in cinema and everything, like you say, RoboCop or Terminator, and you think it's just a good idea to rush into this shit.
I was gonna say, like, they were talking about in the Trump administration how they wanted to have a toll road for every road in America. So they're like, yeah, we're small government, so we're gonna get rid of government roads and have a toll road. And they wanted to privatize every single road. And then you have the dude like Eric Prince from Blackwater, who has his own private military, who's constantly, even to this day, just whispering in Trump's ear, we got to privatize the military. We got to privatize the military. We got to privatize the police. and they want to privatize so many things. And I'm glad that it hasn't. I don't know if it will or not, but when you brought up that RoboCop thing, I was like, that whole idea was thrown around a couple of times.
I just think that like at the point that we make the human condition a profit margin is the point where we lose all ability to be free. Like think about our healthcare is now a profit margin. Like your health is somebody else's bottom line. If that's the
Yep.
same for your freedom, if that's the same for your ability to live, we're mortgaging out the aspects of the human condition to corporations for what? So they can make money. I don't want to live that life. That's not a life worth living.
Well, it's been a great episode, fellas. To the audience, if y'all really liked the episode and you want to catch the next one, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and please catch us on the next episode of Tactical Pause Podcast.